Hey guys, welcome back to Broussard Homestead. Brett and Amy here. Recently we did a little video that we put out asking you guys for your questions because we enjoy the interaction in the comments so much. We wanted to kind of do it this way to where we can answer some of your questions in a video, and we got a good response. We got several questions, so let's get into it. Our first question came from Adrian. And he said, do you test soil before planting crops like purple hulls? Us personally, we haven't tested the soil yet. We probably should have by now. But we're a little less concerned about the pH of the soil. We're more concerned that the soil has so much clay in it. And we've been adding a lot of rabbit manure and organic matter. We compost a little bit, not near enough, but you know, we do what we can. As far as purple hulls, we don't have any experience with purple hulls. We haven't grown any. Now I can tell you green beans do really well here.
Purple hulls do really well here too. We just haven't planted any.
Well, in the area, you
yeah.
mean, right? Yeah. I know your parents do purple hulls, and they do really well. They get lots and lots of it. They sell. They have a big garden. So moving on, Rachel asked, can you give a timeline on when to start planting each variety of plant that we put on our homestead, including fruit trees? I can tell you the best thing that you can do for that, because well, let me say this. We know of our area. I don't think either one of us have lived anywhere too far from here. So we know our planting zone, we know our climate, and we can help with that some. But as far as anywhere else in the country, we really don't know. We have no clue. So
you can look up your local ag center and find a planting guide. It'll tell you when to plant seeds and when's it best to plant the actual transplants. How many days to your harvest, things like that.
Right. Now on fruit trees in our area, in our climate, you can plant fruit trees anywhere from the fall to the spring. Mm-hmm. Our ground doesn't freeze here. In the 43 years that I've been alive, we've never, I'm old, we've never had the ground freeze. We've had the water on top of the ground freeze.
Right, we get frost,
yeah,
and a little bit of snow.
We don't get frozen.
Not even much
ground.
snow.
Yeah. So the fall is the best for the fruit trees and probably any perennials, because it'll give time for the root system to get established before the growing season.
Right.
Yeah. So, Old School with a Modern Twist asked a few questions. Their first question was, were you raised on a homestead or a farm? Me? Do you want to go first?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I was raised right here, actually. Where we live now, our little homestead is a piece of the property that belonged to my parents, and before that it belonged to my grandparents, and before that, anyway, it's from the late 1880s. My great-great-grandfather originally homesteaded the 40 acres that our little piece of property is a part of. So it's a tradition for me. However, as I was growing up, you know, as we probably all do, I went through a phase where all I wanted was the city life, the kind of stuff that I saw on TV. And later on, I kind of wanted to get back to my roots. I had the good fortune and the blessing to grow up next to my grandma, like literally next to her in the same yard. So I had a good relationship with her. I had a good relationship with my dad, who also, he gardened, and we raised...
He did livestock too.
Yeah, small livestock, mainly. We did have some sheep and a horse, you know, when I was growing up. But I got exposed to that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, at that age, I really wasn't interested. But I did pick up some things. And it's kind of unfortunate because I could have learned so much from my dad, but he's gone now. And, you know, that's sad. I don't like that, but it is what it is. So, what about you?
Well, I didn't grow up on a farm or a homestead. My parents didn't really garden with like a whole heck of a lot while we were growing up.
Yeah.
They do now, but my grandparents raised a big garden every year, and I can remember, oh Lord, as far back as I can remember, going and snapping green beans with my mom and cutting carrots with my great grandmother. You know, things like that. I learned a lot of cooking skills from my grandmother.
Oh yeah. See, I forgot to mention cooking from scratch. That was something that I did with my grandma too. Yeah. So okay, let's move on. Old school with a modern twist. They also asked, how do you rate your skill level if you had to live 100% off grid?
That's a tough one.
Not good. Not good. We've been here
3 years.
3.5 years.
Well, yeah.
And we're still establishing. At this point, I would probably not even classify us as a homestead. I would say we're more of a hobby farm at this point. But we're, every day we're progressing toward our goal.
We're gaining skills too. We're learning new things every season.
And we did start that before we moved here too. At our old house, we raised a garden, but and our soil was so much better there. Our old house was her grandpa's place, and he used to garden, so it was already full of. We had 18 inches of topsoil there. Here we've got clay.
Here we've got like 2 feet of clay.
Yeah. So, but anyway,
but we're obviously learning how to do it from scratch,
Yeah.
and we're trying to do it without chemical fertilizers to the best of our ability. We're trying to do it without pesticides and insecticides, and I don't like to spray Roundup or anything like that.
Well, not that we're dead set against those things either. If it comes down to it.
If it's an absolute necessity, then yeah.
But we really try to stay away from it. Now, if we had to live 100% off grid, my biggest fear is the summers here. Oh, it would be brutal. Well,
I don't know. Our winter this year, we have a mild winter, but it's wet and it's cold and it's really funky outside.
Yeah, it's been raining for days. So, and the other day we got about 6 inches of rain.
Yeah.
So it's bad right now. But I think I would take this over a summer with no AC.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because we
have hot, humid summers.
Humid.
It's really hard to breathe when you go outside, and the humidity level is sometimes 90 to 100%, and it's just
often, yeah. In the dead of the summer,
you don't have to physically do anything to sweat.
Right. You go outside and just start sweating. So, and old school with a modern twist. Their last question is: do you have a pickle recipe?
We do. We have pickled quail eggs that we make. Now we're not raising quail at the moment, but we have in the past. And as far as I know, everybody's liked the recipe. So I can post that on our Facebook page. Yeah.
As far as pickling cucumbers, we haven't. But
my mom has a couple of recipes, though. I may be able to kind of borrow.
If we can get her to share.
We do have a recipe for the pickled jalapenos and the pickled banana peppers, which those actually came out really good. They're great on a salad.
Yeah, they're better when they're aged.
Yeah.
All right, so one of our biggest fans, Miss Denise Nash, asked a few questions too. She said, when you decided to homestead, what was the icing on the cake, if you will, that made you make the final decision to homestead? Well, I think
that was like quite a few things that kind of contributed to it. It wasn't really one major thing.
I think the thing that really started making us catch a grip and feel like we needed to do some things on our own is the recession of 2008.
Well, not only that, but you starting the fire department really affected our income in a different way because you weren't self-employed anymore.
And that's what I'm saying. The recession caused me to seek out better employment. Because I was self-employed before, And I got to a point where I was
It was really seasonal.
looking for work more than I was actually working. So,
Yeah.
and then beyond that, we started, YouTube has been a real inspiration. You know, you guys that have channels too, we watch a lot of your stuff and we learn tons.
Oh.
We have learned tons.
We don't watch TV much anymore. We don't have cable or satellite or anything like that. We have Hulu, but and we're getting rid of Netflix because we don't watch it. But our main TV watching is YouTube.
Because I enjoy learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like watching. It's like entertainment with a purpose. You know. So, you know, so the icing on the cake, I guess. I don't know.
Learning how to save money.
I like to know how to do stuff for myself. I guess there's not real one thing that.
We kind of got interested in camping around that time too, and the girls were wanting to learn how to build their own fires and, you know, cooking outside over the fire. That was more of a fun thing, and it kind of piqued our interest.
I guess the idea that we may have to do without something. How would we get along? You know, that's what really got us interested in homesteading and, you know, prepping, because prepping is a part of homesteading, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, so I hope that answered it. The next question is, what percentage of self-reliant are we trying to be? I hate to put a number on that.
Well, you can't really put a number on how much you want to be. Eventually, I'd love to be 100%, but in reality, in the modern economy, I don't know if that's actually possible.
Well, I don't know if it's so much the economy, it's more the society, because as a whole, we're so dependent on electricity in some in some form or another.
Yeah.
Walmart, you know, trucking, different things. We're just so dependent on things, and it's very, very difficult to break away from some of that stuff.
Right.
And still lead a normal life and still be a part of society, because, you know, you can't just totally break away from society. That would be crazy. I'm not calling anybody crazy. So, okay. Next question is, have you seen a difference in cost savings in becoming a homesteader?
I have. Yeah.
Some, yeah.
We broke away from buying like instant groceries, like instant oatmeals and instant grits and things like that. And Abby's been a lifesaver. We've learned how to make, you know, grits from scratch, oatmeal from scratch. Not necessarily from scratch, but cooking it ourselves, not in these little individual packages where it's add water, microwave, and you're done.
That's the thing. Basic ingredients are cheaper than a ready-made product. Like a corn dog or pizza rolls or things like that.
Yeah, we don't buy that stuff anymore. We buy meat, vegetables. A lot of vegetables in the springtime we grow, and we try to use what we grow. Now in the coming year, I want to preserve more. I want to grow more so that we have more to preserve, you know.
Right.
But this year we kind of focused on growing what we were going to use, and everything that came out of the garden we tried to use in some way, shape, or form.
Some stuff we did sell in the past years. We've sold more, and we're trying to go more toward preserving and keeping things for ourselves than selling.
Well, we do have some crops that we grow mainly for selling points, you know, and we sell a little bit. We don't make a whole heck of a lot of money off of it, but the money that we do make goes back to the farm in the instance of paying for feed and different things for the animals and things like that. That's how we you know, help pay for our rabbit pens or our chicken coops and, you know, different things like that.
I wanted to mention that too, and I forgot what question it was. The one on the cost savings. We're still on that question. We're big time still in the investment stage.
Yeah.
So we're not seeing a whole lot of return.
Right.
Because like you just said, what what we do make, we invest it back in.
Right.
And that's a big reason why I still have a full-time job. Katie started her a full-time job, or she started part-time, and now she's at the full-time. So
Yeah.
we're pretty proud of her. So, and then I think that's our last question.
Yeah.
Our last question, and then the kids have some questions to answer. Cricket LCFD, that's somebody I work with, a good friend of mine, Gary. He asked, what would be a good vegetable or two for a beginner to start with that has no knowledge of a homestead lifestyle? I had some ideas, and then Amy kind of corrected me.
Well, everybody thinks tomatoes, but tomatoes are a little more difficult to grow. Not that they're difficult to grow, they take a lot of maintenance. You know, checking on them daily and pruning them and things like that to get them to produce more. Mm-hmm. But turnips around here, you can pretty much grow turnips year round. They won't make as great during the summer because they're not great summer crops. But in the fall, you just pretty much sprinkle the seeds on the ground and let them go. They take very little to no maintenance and keep our chickens out of them. But
and then we don't eat. We just don't like them. We don't eat the
greens,
the turnip greens, but they don't go to waste. They go to either the rabbits or the chickens or straight into the compost or. So
very little that we put greens in the compost though.
We really try not to waste anything that would be considered waste on something. We usually try to use it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, that kind of mindset, I guess. Okra would also.
In this area,
yeah, that's a good beginner plant, I think.
If you've got a full sun area that's really hot, stick a seed in the ground, and they don't take a whole lot of water.
They're not real finicky on what kind of soil either.
No,
because we've grown
okra in clay.
Yeah.
It doesn't grow as well as like fertile soil.
Right.
They don't get as tall or as thick. You know, they may not produce as much, but they'll still grow.
The different varieties of peppers are also really good. Bell peppers, banana peppers, jalapenos. Yeah. Some people like the spicy ones. Yeah. I'm not too big on those.
Well, we're going to plant some spicy ones this year.
I kind of like my stomach lining. I'm a little favorable.
We're going to plant some spicier peppers, though, this year. Because I want to dehydrate them and make our own seasonings.
Yeah, that would be smart. And herbs like peppermint. What else do we have?
Peppermint, you almost can't kill it. But basil does really good in hot, humid temperatures. We had bushes of that stuff this year.
And too, in our climate, most herbs are perennials. They'll come back the following year, depending on how harsh the winter is. We've had pretty mild winters, and the peppermint that we have out there is 3 years old, 2.5, 2. It's been through a couple of winters.
Yeah, it's been through at least 2 winters, so probably about 2.5 years old.
And herbs are also a good starter plant, starter plants, because all the varieties. But
well, you can start those in small containers.
Well, I was going to say to learn to propagate, to clone your plants.
Yeah. That's something we're going to do in the spring. We've got some rosemary plants, so we're gonna start our own cuttings. Actually, these were started from Cheyenne, our oldest daughter.
Yeah,
she started them from cuttings and gave them to us, and we've babied them, and they're pretty good size plants now.
Probably
about a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet tall.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're doing really well.
Yeah. Some of our herbs are not doing so well. You know, I've learned, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but lettuce does not do well here.
No.
Now I understand why most people don't grow lettuce, because it's just so hot and humid here.
Well, even through the cooler winter, we had a couple of days where it got up to about 70 degrees, and after 2 days of the warmer temperatures, the lettuce went straight to bolting.
Yeah. And bolting, if you don't know, is
seeding.
It goes to seed, and whatever greens are on the plant are just bitter at that point.
I tried them. They're really bad. It's not something I would eat. Now, green onions do really well here.
And that's just grocery store green onions.
If you want a really easy, tall, don't have to do anything with it tree, go with a banana. We planted bananas in the spring of this year, and they were
three little pups.
They were maybe 6 inches tall when we planted them, and like by the end of the summer, they were probably about 16 feet tall.
Yeah.
They have been great shade for the chicken yard.
They didn't produce any bananas. I don't know if we're going to get bananas.
I don't know.
But they have provided shade for the chickens and something nice to look at.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the questions that we have directed for us. We had posed a couple of questions for Abby and Katie. So we're going to turn over the video to them.
Well, I guess it's our turn.
The first question is, tell us what you think about online public school education, our pros and cons.
Well, me and Abby both went to a school called Louisiana Virtual Charter Academy. It's through the K-12 curriculum. It's an online public school, so it's not traditionally being homeschooled. I graduated last May. Abby's in
8th grade.
We were in it for 5.5 years.
Yeah, I think this will be 5.5.
Okay. And I actually got to leave the school a little early because I finished all of my courses a year ahead of time. So I guess that's one pro. We can finish at our own pace, kind of do what we need to do whenever we need to do it.
It's really flexible because we can do our classes when we need. So if we can't make a class for the day, then we can go back and watch a recording of our class connect and still get all the information and all the notes. So it's very flexible for our schedules. So we can still learn things outside from school during school times, and we can do other things and not have to worry about sticking to a strict schedule for school.
Well, yeah, in that note, there is no time schedule. There's not a 8 to 3 like normal.
No, but it is good to have a somewhat set schedule that you work between to get it all done.
Our school was more of a more supportive environment. Most of the kids that came in were being bullied, so we kind of knew what everybody was going through. So it was more supportive than an average public school, brick and mortar.
I think one of the cons would have to be you don't get as many social interactions as you would as a public school. We do have opportunities for field trips, and we have testing every year. We have prom. So we do have opportunities to interact, but not many people go to the field trips. And for testing, it's more or less you don't mingle there. You get your test done with and you leave. So that's one of the main cons I would have. I think I'd have a lot more pros than cons, though.
Well, in that sense, if you do meet a friend, like you made some friends this year, but they're all over the place, so you can't really schedule to meet up like you would if it were just a town over.
Yeah. So it's a little harder, but it's still a really good school. The teachers are always really nice. They, if you need help with something, like to pick up your grade, you can just ask them questions and they'll help you. They'll give you notes, they'll give you sample questions, and they'll help you pick up your grade. That's another thing. You can go back and look at your grade book and see what you've missed if you have a bad grade on a certain quiz or test or something, and you can review and study for the information on that test, and you can go back and retake it and try to get a higher grade to pick your grade up even more. So that's a really big pro for me. There's also a lot of more opportunities in this school than we had in public school. Like, you got to graduate a year early. We have more electives, fun classes like music, art. You got to take computer what was it?
Literacy.
Yep. And did you take graphic design or not?
No, I didn't, but I did get to take forensic science.
Yeah, that's what it was. We can take keyboarding, journalism.
Okay, what are your goals for 2019? First of all, I want to learn more about the beehives that we're gonna have and help Mom and Brett take care of them. Like Brett said, me and him are at full-time jobs, so I'm away from the homestead a little more than Abby is. So right now I'm more looking at my future, more or less, than things that I can do on the homestead. So I'm going to help with whatever I can, but my focus right now is furthering my future plans.
Some of my plans, I'd like to learn to can the foods that we harvest. Things like potatoes and green beans, I'd like to learn how to can and process those so that we can keep them and use them later on instead of having to use them right away. I'd also like to learn different recipes and different ways to cook the things that we get from the harvest, like green beans, tomatoes, things like that. I'd like to learn many different recipes. I'd also like to learn to sew basic sewing techniques so I can mend things and maybe later on learn to sew more advanced, but I'd like to start learning a little basic sewing techniques.
Okay, the last question is, what is your chores on the homestead?
Well, the first thing I do in the mornings is I feed and water the rabbits. Most of the time, I help out with breakfast and stuff too. We do dishes, we cook, clean, I feed the dogs. Whenever we have harvest from the garden, I help process those and cook and clean the things that we get from the garden.
Okay, a big one for me is feeding and taking care of my chickens. Making sure there's water, the eggs are all collected, we don't have any broken eggs. Emptying the compost, keeping the yard clean, and we pick up all of the yard furniture when Brett or Mom is mowing the grass. I have to clean up after my cat. Basically, we clean up the house when there's anything to be done. We take care of it. In the summer, I do all the basil flowers. I like to go and pick at things, as Mom would say. So I pick off all the flowers so the basil doesn't get bitter. And then I just make sure Abby's areas are clean.
Thanks for watching. We enjoyed making the video. We enjoyed answering your questions. We love the interaction. Thank you for sending all the questions. And until next time, I'm Brett.
I'm Amy.
I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Abby.
And thanks again. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.